Welcome to another episode of Before You Kill Yourself with your host, Leo Flowers. Today's episode is brought to us by BetterHelp, Help. It's exactly what you would write in the sand if you were stuck on an island, right? Help. And then you see the helicopter go by, you start waving. BetterHelp is that helicopter. They are the ones that will save you, they will pick you up. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? I know for me, it's been a sense of feeling inadequate or afraid of expressing my needs. Because, like, if I express my needs and they say no and they find out what I really want, they're going to leave and I'll be abandoned and I have to start all over again. And also just comparing myself to other people. Every time I compare, I get on social media and I see the amazing life that other people are living. It just makes me want to just curl up and stop doing everything that I'm doing. But BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. Now, I understand when you are in despair and you are spiraling, you just feel like the last thing I want to do is talk to anybody, but it's the best thing to do. When I was in trouble, when I couldn't see my way through the thickness, through the darkness, it was talking to someone, especially a professional therapist that guided me through. I still have a therapist. I have not only my own therapist, but I have a couples therapist. So me and my girlfriend have a therapy. Talking to someone is so beneficial, but it doesn't feel like it when you're in the midst of it. Now, I want you to remember that it's not a crisis line. BetterHelp is not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. BetterHelp is not the right solution for you if you have thoughts of hurting yourself or others. There is a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. You could kick back at the crib, at your house, in su casa, and get your therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches so they can make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling. And here's the kicker, ladies and gents. Financial aid is available. That's right. But you don't have to go to college. College ain't the only one doling out financial aid. BetterHelp has financial aid because BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily, right? Check them out. Visit betterhelp.com/Leo. That's right, I got a slash before the name. Go to betterhelp.com/Leo. That's better, HELP, and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Special offer. Here's a special offer. Check this out. This just came in just now. Special offer for my Before You Kill Yourself listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Leo. That's right. Just for tuning in, just for being a friend, an ally, just somebody who I enjoy spending my time with. 10% off your first month if you go to betterhelp.com/Leo. Let's go. Today's guest is the founder of the Canary Yellow Project, Joshua LeBreton. He uses music to navigate his darkness. And this is such a great episode. I love it. We talk about how he uses music, obviously, to navigate his pain and to heal his history. We talk about what plagued him as a kid and how did he deal with OCD. I've never heard of someone phrasing OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, in the way that he did. And I also have never heard of someone using the technique that he uses to treat it. And we get into self loathing, but then we also get into how to follow the right rabbits. I know you guys are like, what do you mean following the right rabbits? You got to listen to find out how to follow the right rabbits and what gave him an overwhelming sense of hope for the future. This is such a great episode and so inspiring. My boy Joshua is in the hottest of hot places, Louisiana. So, and enjoy the episode, enjoy the accent. I hope that you're healthy. I hope the people around you are healthy. And if you're struggling to find something to be grateful for, it doesn't have to be for you. Remember that you can be grateful for someone else's success or joy or peace, or for the universe and or the sun coming up this morning. All these little things that can ground us in the present moment. And you can always go to thrivewithleo.com for one-on-one coaching with yours truly. If you struggle with pain, despair, and when I say pain, I'm not just talking about the mental pain, the chronic pain. I have six bulging discs in my neck that are bothering me all the time, and I do everything in my power to avoid the opioids and the painkillers, and I incorporate these other self-soothing techniques and coping strategies to deal with the pain and to help me sleep at night. So I want to share all those things with you, all those strategies, all those skills and techniques with you, one on one. And so go to thrivewithleo.com for more information. Let's get to tomorrow together. And with that said, let's jump into the episode. Joshua, what got you out of bed this morning?
Well, I try to focus on the positives in life that I can, and I'm very kind of method oriented and goal oriented. So I try to have a list of what keeps me going and what I have to do that day, and I have a wife and a young daughter, and so they kind of keep me motivated to make those decisions, and so it's really just goals and methods for whatever the day might be.
I love that. And I definitely want to get into the details in terms of your goals and what keeps you going every day. But what's your overall mission? I know that, you're big in music. Can you talk to us about how music has helped you deal with some of your mental health struggles?
Sure. I am a musician today. I consider myself a songwriter, and I play music for a living in terms of, my month to month, duties. And, music early on for me was kind of it was kind of a place of solitude. I grew up in a broken home, and, dealing with both emotional and a little bit of physical abuse from, authority figures. And music was kind of always the thing that I was able to escape to and have this kind of solace. And when I was feeling, those despair kind of conjurings, I was able to, use music as a comfort, as an escape. And I owe a lot to that craft and to those music artists that were, early in my life that helped me.
Yeah, what type of music is it? Are you one of those country guitar, folklore? I'm taking guitar right now, so everything to me is about guitar.
Gotcha. So I am a guitar player, and that's my longest standing instrument. I play a couple of other instruments, but guitar is the one that I really identify with. So I've been a guitar player really since I was about 13 years old, and I'm 32 today. So it's been quite a while. I'm also a guitar teacher today. So I pass it on to others, and the music that I participate in today in terms of my songwriting project that we'll discuss, and is really more of kind of like in the vein of maybe the Coldplays or the Radioheads and those types of bands. And I like songwriters like Regina Spektor and Fiona Apple, and that's kind of, I guess, the genre that I tend to live in terms of creatively. But I've been all over the map in terms of listening since I was young, and it went from maybe more angsty kind of rock music to hip hop and different things along the way. But I would say definitely mostly the alternative kind of zones for music.
I like I said, I just started playing guitar recently, and when I was in high school, I was studying saxophone,
Okay,
but it was the baritone saxophone. It was this massive thing. It was almost as tall as I was, and when
right,
you're living in Chicago, the last thing you want to do is carry home a baritone saxophone on a plane and then train, or not plane and train, but a bus and train. You get made fun of or stolen
sure,
or things like that. So I didn't practice it much, and but what I love about playing an instrument is that it allows you to get into this zone, this state of flow, where for people, listeners who are struggling with anxiety, it's really a healthy way to alleviate some of that tension, that angst. It gives you a place to channel your energy, and it just kind of brings clarity. Do you find that when you've been playing for so long? Do you still get into that state of flow where you kind of just lose yourself in the music?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. My first instrument was trombone, so it's funny we have a similar kind of lineage in that way, and did that when I was really young. So from age 9 into right in the beginning of middle school, and that was my first instrument. And it wasn't until I got into guitar that it really started to speak to me. And because music was such that escape for me when I was young, I had such that reverence for it, such a respect for it, and it helped me in so many ways that I started to look inward and learn how to be self-aware because of that. And these music artists were diving into insightful things that I was relating to and needing at that time. And so today, as an adult, it's come full circle. I still feel very strongly about music. As I mentioned, I do play it for a living in different capacities. But my in terms of my songwriting and my creative side, there's really nothing like it. The music is really the thing that kept me away from substance abuse and all of the not so great things that can come along with depression and anxiety and even the obsessive compulsiveness that I still struggle with today. And so I definitely still feel that about music. And I feel like because it made me and helped me feel so much less alone when I was young. Really, the best thing I can do to give back to it and to give back to people is to try to cultivate that for others. Because even if it's just one person, if it wasn't for music, I don't know that I would still be here today. So because of that, to answer your question, absolutely, I still get very lost in it, and it's a wonderful set of moments, and I appreciate it very much.
Country music, rap music, no matter what the genre of music, there's a storytelling that's involved, and there's a reason why some songs stand the test of time because like you said, it makes you feel less alone in the world. Were you an only child growing up? Is that why you felt alone, or what was why did you feel so alone as a kid?
No, so I'm the oldest of four siblings, and the things that really kept me, feeling those despair moments and those kind of lonely moments was because I grew up in a broken home, and I my so I have actually never met my biological father, and I didn't really know that until later in life, in my teenage years. But you know, I um I dealt with a lot of step parents. My mother married my who became my adopted father when I was young, and really probably between the age of 3 and 6 in that area. And that was great, and everything was fine. But once they divorced, which I was closer to 7 and 8 years old, it's when I started moving around quite a bit. So I went to a total of 8 different schools growing up, and it was in 2 different cities. And so learning how to cultivate relationships was very tough for me, and learning how to keep those relationships and maintain them, proved to be difficult. And I also had, step parents, again, along the way that were, you know, not so happy times, and there was a abuse there, and so music was just kind of this escape mechanism. It was a way that I can say, try to have some permanency in my life, and two, just get away from the kind of ups and downs that I was experiencing day to day and inside of my home. And I was getting into my adolescent years and my teenage years when it was really starting to become, um, you know, not great and not healthy. And so music was just that. It was that escape, that drug, and just that thing that helped keep me grounded because I was struggling to do that on my own.
You know what's beautiful about that is that, like you said, you found something that you could control. It's like the world around you was so out of control with moving to two different cities. Divorce at 7. You got other siblings that you're growing up with, and it just seems like that. And eight, you said 8 different schools.
8 different
Yeah,
schools.
8
Yeah.
different schools, and so you had to ask yourself and figure out what's my anchor? What's the thing that can keep consistent? And you found that in the guitar. How did the guitar come into your? Was it a teacher? Was it a class? One of your parents teach you? How did that even come into play?
So I actually have no musicians in my family at all. I'm a first generation musician, and I as I mentioned earlier, got into trombone when I was very young, and it wasn't until a friend had a guitar at sort of like a sleepover type of situation with a couple of friends, and it was just something he was into at the time. So he brought it, and he was playing it, and I just was fascinated by that. I just really like he was a beginner and still learning himself, but he enjoyed it. It wasn't something maybe that he was like extremely extremely passionate about, but he definitely enjoyed it and brought it around. And I was either starting to listen to music at that time to pay really more attention to music and sort of choose my own genres and artists, as opposed to just listening to something that's on the radio or finding artists that my parents may have had some old CDs or records for. And I just found this instrument to be very interesting. And so he was like, well, I can show you a couple of things. And I was like, sure. And so he showed me very small little tidbits of songs and a couple of techniques along the way. And I just I believe my mom kind of caught wind of that. She realized that I was interested in that, so she maybe mentioned it to her parents, and they happened to have an old guitar that my aunt had maybe been interested in when she was younger. So they, got that out of their attic or their storage space, and gave it over to us. And that was the rest is really kind of history. I just really latched onto that, and never stopped. It was just such an inspiring instrument for me. I don't know what it was that stuck out or why, but it did. And because of that, I never let that go. And to this day, again, it is my the main instrument I identify most with. It kind of speaks what my intentions are for music the most clearly, and I love it.
Yeah, I would imagine having 4 siblings, moving around a lot, that would either bring you all really close together or separate you a lot. And being the oldest, you would either be really protective or feel like no one understands you because you are the oldest. What was the relationship with your other siblings growing up?
So I am the oldest, and the distance between my siblings and I are pretty vast. My youngest sister, she just turned 18. So I am 32. So you can see that's quite a bit of distance. My brother just above her, so the one that's getting closer to my age. He is just about a year or so older than she is, so he's 19. I believe he actually even just turned 20, if I'm not mistaken. And my sister above that, who is the closest to me in age, she is 28. So she's 4 years below me, and all of my siblings are half siblings. I am. As I mentioned earlier, I've never met my biological father, and my adopted father was my nearest sister's biological father. One of my stepfathers are the remaining two's biological father. So there's some distance there in terms of age. My sister, the one that was closest in age to me, she's of course been with me a lot longer in terms of life, and we were in the same early households together before the other two arrived, and in kind of that first home with my adopted father and my mother, and we were very close, and we when my mother met my who would be my stepfather, that's when we moved cities, and that was when I was about 10, and so she was 6, and we were close. We just had each other for a while as we're in this new city. We're trying to learn what our friends will be and who our friends will be, and and we had each other, so that was good. But as the years went on into my teenage years, and when things started to get tough with my my authority figures, and the teenage years are kind of course, causing me to want to search for my independence and seek that out in a way that I'm trying to assert myself a little bit more. And of course, being a male, that's it looks different sometimes. And overall, I was a good kid. I wasn't into anything that would make somebody scared. I think it was just there was a power struggle between my parents and I, and it was a difficult time. So my sister, who I was still very close with, we were there for each other during that. But during high school, when I was in my junior year of high school, so I'm 16. I actually went down with my sister to visit her biological father, which is my adopted father. So I do call him dad. And we're there for Christmas time. So this is a Christmas vacation. We're thinking we're there for a break, and just to visit my dad. And I find out during this trip that I won't be coming back home. So I'm essentially kicked out of my house in that other city, and I'll be from then on living with my adopted father. My sister will be going back where she was. She'll be going back to the other city with my mother and my stepfather, but I'll be staying. And I didn't really find that out until the day of the exchange. And you can imagine being 16 years old. That's very, very difficult. And I had friends. I was involved in music. I was in a band, and I had a girlfriend, and all of the things that give you ties to a city and circumstances. And I'm finding out, kind of in the middle of nothing, that I won't be going back to these things. My cell phone is going to be taken away. So the only access I have to these people are going to be through the internet. And, being 16, this was 16 years ago, the internet wasn't quite what it was today. So we had things like instant messenger and stuff like that, but it was still, the social media aspect was still very new. And because of that shift, and having to change high schools in the middle of the year in a different city, and change households, and lose that connection with my sister, and ultimately lose a lot of trust with my parental figures, and it stirred up a lot. And my siblings, although I love them very much, our relationships are not as tight knit as maybe they could have been because of that change. And I was kind of thrown into this protective mode. I had to, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts at the time, and music was more of that kind of solace for me. And so it was very, very difficult and very hard to navigate, as you can imagine. So I have the language for it these days as a 32-year-old, but as a 16-year-old, there was lots and lots of emotions and hormones and circumstances that it just wasn't easy, very difficult.
You're in a protective mode. You've lost your trust with your parents, with adults around you. You're separated from your sister, and now you're forced to start over. Now you have any suicidal thoughts. And you said one of the things that anchored you was, playing the guitar, having the music. Were there other anchors? Were there other things that you held on to that kept you going outside the music?
I had I also had relationships, especially with people that were back home in the other city that I was being pulled from, and
What city was that?
so I'm from Louisiana,
Okay.
and so it was North Louisiana. It's a smaller city right outside of the city of Monroe, Louisiana, and that was the place where I spent most of my adolescence, and it was in South Louisiana that I ended up. I was actually born in South Louisiana, and so it was kind of this leaving and then coming back, and you know, I um I had relationships in the North Louisiana city, and that I was able to still hang on to during this time. Of course, I'm a smart kid. I'm a tech savvy kid, and the internet is there, so I'm finding ways to cultivate these relationships still. And my adopted father was, you know, uh, I guess, considered enough to decide to go ahead and get me a cell phone and allow me to reestablish those connections. Although my adopted father, he has difficulties processing, complex emotions, I think, in that arena. But he could see I was hurting, and he knew that it wasn't easy. So he tried to do what he could. He did get me a cell phone, so I was able to reconnect. And so, hanging on to those relationships, somewhat, was also something that kept me grounded, because I felt like maybe there would be, some sort of way back to them. Maybe there would be a way that I could, maintain that. It was what I knew, and it was what I needed. So I thought, you know, I should keep in touch with these people. And making friends in the middle of high school in a new city is not an easy task. And at this point, I'm dealing with a lot of anxieties, and it's like I'm not really interested in finding friends. I'm retreating further and further into myself, and using music as that solitude as well. And I just, I the only thing I could do is keep my friends that I had, and they would visit me from time to time. Sometimes they would make the trip. We were all still young, but sometimes maybe their parents would help them get there, or maybe we had one friend that was old enough to drive or had a vehicle that he would, take a handful of people down and might stay for a day or two, maybe for a weekend. And so it was relationships as well that helped me, and I did establish new ones in the southern city as well. It just took some time, so those things all helped.
Part of the trauma stems from obviously moving around so much, and then trusting in parental figures, and then having that trust broken numerous times. Uh, was there physical abuse?
Yeah, so there was, and I have difficulties talking about that.
We don't have to talk about it.
Right.
Whatever you're comfortable with. But I guess
Sure.
I was asking because I would imagine if there was physical abuse and you moved around a lot, that it would cause trouble sleeping. Were there? That's what I was really trying to get at,
Mhm.
without getting too much into it. Do you have trouble sleeping, or did you have trouble sleeping at any point?
I Sleeping has always been my schedule has always been a little topsy turvy. I know in my younger years I would kind of stay up later, and I think many people do that, especially in their teenage years. Stay up later, wake up a little bit later, especially when school wasn't in session. And I don't think that I ultimately had trouble getting to sleep or staying to sleep. That was unfortunate, or fortunately, not something that tended to plague me. I think the thing that plagued me most was my ability to turn my brain off, and that crept in more and more as I became an adult. So when I was a young teenager and early adult, it was there, but it wasn't quite as strong. As an adult, I think as my obsessive compulsiveness started to become more of a thing and it started to materialize and, anxiety kind of shifted in that direction, I think I noticed my need to kind of really I had to really focus method into turning my mind off in order to shut down for the evening or to shut down to get to sleep. And ultimately what I would do is I would wait until the house was quiet, whether it was my in my young life or during having roommates in the college years, or when my wife and I got married, and of course we're sharing a home together. It's like I would wait for the house to become quiet. Maybe those people had gone to sleep, and I would use that time to really funnel my energies down a little bit, so I can kind of turn off from that, let some of those things go, kind of prep for the next day. That way, I can shut as many of those things as possible down in order to get to sleep.
Yeah, it's turning the brain off is such a challenge. I mean, we're inundated with ways to turn our brains on, whether it's caffeine or some type of other stimulant or loud music. But really slowing our brains down and shutting it off so we can sleep at night is a massive challenge. And there's research that shows that when we are struggling with depression, it can prevent us from getting into a deep REM sleep, and that's where our prefrontal cortex can relax and go to sleep and kind of recharge. So if we're not getting that deep REM sleep, then it basically is inhibiting us from making complex decisions. Um, I've used yoga nidra to help me sleep, kind of a
Hmm.
grounding meditation. It kind
Right.
of have you heard of it?
I'm mildly familiar with that, but I've never participated.
What I like about yoga nidra, as opposed to the other forms of meditation, is some guided meditations can trigger other thoughts. Like I used to listen to self affirmations, like "I am wonderful," "I am great," whatever,
Right.
and I would find that those some of the words, even though they were quote unquote positive, would trigger some negative visuals or emotions. And with no yoga nidra, where it's just a tuning into your senses, tapping into your body, feel your feet on the mat, bring attention to the back of your neck, bring your awareness to your ears, things like that. Is I found to be more soothing. Do you have a meditative practice or anything close to that?
Oh yeah, that it's really interesting that you mentioned those things, because actually one of my methods for dealing with obsessive compulsiveness is an idea of called postponement. And I got the language for that in the last few months, but I've been practicing this idea for quite a while. And really, what it has to do is attuning yourself with the present. So, as you mentioned, those types of qualities of focusing on your feet, being on the ground, or the sensations on the back of your neck, or those things that they both get you outside of your head, but fully get yourself into your head as well. Not in a way that you start to kind of spiral, but in a way that lets you know that everything is active around you in the present. And one of the ideas of postponement is taking these things that cause you to spiral downward, and it's typically things that cause impatience, make you feel like something has to be solved or happen right then and there. That's an obsessive compulsive trait for sure, and there's a doubting aspect to that as well. And so what I tend to do is I take my ideas and, with the exception of something being really pressing, like there's a house fire, or you're about to be run over by a vehicle, or something where you have to act in that moment. There are many thoughts that you don't need to have a solution for right then. And I imagine that that type of technique that you mentioned is just a way of freeing yourself of that pressure, and almost kind of being aware of your body's functions and what they're all doing in a way that gets you away just from the cognitive aspect of the the human condition. And I think once you do that, you're better prepped to handle those things. And I know for me, um, kind of engaging in those methods help me have a clearer head on those things later. So it allows me to reestablish my goals for the moment. It allows me to deal with whatever those things that were plaguing me were in a more healthy way in the future. And then ultimately, I spiral downward much less because of that. And so I see the benefit in that, quite a bit. And I agree that, focusing inward, it's not really just about self affirmation because, for me, I struggle with also a heavy dose of self loathing. In many ways, I hate myself and I don't want to feel that way. And I don't mean that really deep down inside, but I have those layers of just not really loving myself. And I find that if you get too into the self affirmation um, ideas, you can almost look at it as a lie that you're trying to believe, as opposed to working on the things that will help you to love yourself. So it's like peeling away of those layers and really filling out the root of those causes and the history behind that and your personal dispositions toward that. I feel like is oftentimes better than listening to someone tell you or try to convince you how wonderful you are. Really, if you try to learn that, by looking inward and focusing on the present, I've found that that has helped me have a clearer head, and those things help my brain to shut down and appreciate both my ups, my downs, my positives, my negatives. It helps me to not look so down on others. It helps me to see the good in people, because the only way you can do that is if you see the good in yourself. And the only way you can see the good in yourself is if you know that everybody has something of value to offer. And so I try to keep all of those things on my mind, as I create methods for those issues.
Why, I've never heard OCD put like that. It's when you phrase it in terms of, oh, like something has to be that feeling that something has to be solved right now. It's like this overwhelming sense of urgency, or even emergency.
Right.
And that it's so true. I never heard it. When I think of OCD, I just think of racing thoughts or repetitive behavior. But I didn't think about it in terms of yeah, that feeling that, this has to be solved right now, or else it's going to be a catastrophe, and it's going to be the end of the world.
Exactly.
It's almost like the way we imagine preteens and teenagers to view the world,
Right.
where it's like, it's like all or nothing, and it has to be done now.
Yeah. Very, very true. And I think things like social media and what we see online perpetuates that in many ways, especially the celebrity culture that we tend to attach ourselves to worldwide, but definitely in the U.S. And I think the idea of finding your personal self worth and identifying with that in order to also lift others up is really lost on the idea of really the idea of idolatry almost. It's like we look outward and try to compare ourselves to others in order to lift ourselves up, but in reality, it should be the opposite. We should lift ourself up so we can also benefit others, as opposed to putting people on particular pedestals or due to follower counts or dispositions and the scrolling mentality of social media and all of the things that come along with comparison.
You talked about how you use postponement amongst other techniques to kind of bring you to the present moment. Do you have other techniques and strategies that you use?
Other than still with music, if I really am having a struggle with centering myself and I feel like it's out of my control, um, music is kind of something that has always been almost like an instantaneous uh, kind of relief. And what I mean by that is I've always been into very emotive music and kind of music that's both related in sonic complexity, but or kind of living in sonic complexity, but also related to um, deep insightfulness. And there are particular moments in some songs that have always stuck with me. And if I have moments of feeling like I'm losing total control and my methods are not helping me ground myself, there are some moments in songs that will stir up that hope for me and almost give me this kind of feeling of euphoria. It's I'm sure akin to you know substance abuse in many ways, but it's in a way that is of course not going to lead down to physical health problems and whatnot. And so I both use it in that way when I really need it, and of course I participated in it today as a songwriter. And part of my goals with songwriting is to try to be that for people, especially if they don't have methods yet. Because before I had those methods, it's like I can get lost in a song in a particular set of moments, and it would change my state of mind, or at least give me this thing to hold on to make me look further into the future of what could be. And so as a songwriter, especially with my new music project, I tried to cultivate that, and I try to be as vulnerable as possible. And I really started to question my motivations both for life and for art in the last year or so, because my daughter is actually just about to make 1 year old, and my wife and I have been married for 8 years. Just a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated that. And you know, my daughter coming into the world really gave me this new kind of motivation set for life, and it really made me want to focus on all of the things I've ever believed and all of the things that I've ever been kind of for. Why are my interests there, and what can I give back to that? And there were times in my music career that I didn't feel like I was following the right rabbits. I was involved in things that were bringing what people might think of as a lot of success, and I was playing for artists that were getting me in circles of people that would might look like to success to many others. But I was in such a state of unhappiness during that, that it kind of came to a head when my daughter was born, and I realized my motivations for art and my motivations for life, and all of the things that I needed as a young person and still need today. And I thought to myself, you know, why am I not figuring exactly the way that I can give back to that? So it's like part of my methods for dealing with myself are also through my art, both the absorption of the world around me, absorption of other people's art, the new life that I see in my daughter, and the life that I know that if I only have maybe 80 years on the planet and I've had 32 of them, I don't want to waste any of them, and I want to set the next generations up for success, especially in terms of mental health. And my daughter is the person I can influence the most. And if I take those motivations and pour that into my art, I'm hoping that I can also help other people get to those places as well. And all of those are methods for me to deal with my own, mental health day to day.
I love that you said, maybe I'm not. You said how you mentioned that you weren't following the right rabbits at some point. I've never heard it put like that, and that's just a beautiful phrasing. One of the questions that comes to mind is you had such a loss of trust in the people around you. I'm sure the institutions around you, but at the age of about 24, you get married. How did you navigate those feelings of mistrust enough so that you can trust in a person for the rest of your life?
Yeah, man, that's a really really good question, an important question. And when I was younger and I was seeing these, as you mentioned, these institutions kind of rocked and really the statistics of of the negative aspects of life play out, and really being a part of that. I was learning what I didn't want for myself. I was learning what I didn't want for others, what I ultimately don't want to exemplify for anybody else. And when I met my wife, before she was my wife, we met when I was actually at I was 16, and she was maybe 13, approaching 14. I think I was approaching 17. So we weren't. It wasn't like a romantic thing. Yeah, we were. I was actually playing music at the time. She was interested in a band that I was in, and we met during that time, and we parted ways. It was just kind of a fleeting sort of. It was like almost like a fandom thing. She was like a fan, and it was a small friendship, and we met again later in life, and we were both in college. I believe I was 22, and she was 20. She was maybe 19, and I was in a really toxic relationship at the time, and I was playing a show for this band that I was in, and my now wife just happened to come. She caught wind of it, knew that she liked my music earlier on in life when I was in different bands, and was like, "Oh, let me go support him. Let me go maybe see, if he remembers me, and just kind of hang out, that type of thing." And so she did. She went with a friend, and introduced herself to me again. And of course, I recognized her, and we kind of rekindled just a small, kind of a acquaintance, kind of friendship. And I'm in this toxic relationship at the time, and I just really enjoyed the person that she was. She was a different type of person than myself, and certainly different than the relationship that I was in at the time. And I just got this overwhelming sense of hope for the future, and thought to myself, I come from such a poor background, and I don't want to repeat those traits. I want to break the cycle. Now, I don't know that I have the language for this at the time, but I know now today that I wanted to break that cycle, and I want to break it still today, of course. And so I'm seeing that, and I'm thinking to myself, one of the ways to break this cycle is to not stay in this toxic relationship that I'm in, because if I do, there's a big chance that I won't come out of it, and I'm just going to go down the same path that I saw my parents go down. It could result in anything, because you never know what those types of decisions can result in. And having never met my biological father, having this broken home, multifaceted broken home, I just didn't want those things for myself, for others. And so I broke off that relationship, and just a couple of months later, I decided to pursue, this kind of new acquaintance, or this person that has come back into my life, just as a dating thing. I asked her on a date, and we dated, and we ultimately were married a couple of years later. And she also comes from a broken home, less broken in some aspects, but she has also seen divorce. And because of that, we have both an unhealthy and a healthy mindset on that. Unhealthy in that it's part of your history, and it affects you. Healthy in that we know that we want different, and we want better. And the only way to get better, wanting it is not enough. You have to cultivate that, and you have to create that, and you have to want it enough that you're going to stay motivated to do that. And I think we both knew that, and we both wanted those things, and so we cultivated that, and we waited to have children. We waited to learn about ourselves, and really establish that foundation. And that was really the beginning of my healing, because all through my early 20s, I was still navigating that grief and that trauma, and always had the mentality of anywhere but here. I was just trying to get away always. Much like I would escape with music. I was just trying to just escape everything, and I was doing a lot of touring as a musician at the time, and that was my mentality. So getting married, I was shedding that, and I was starting to say, no, I want permanency. I want healthy stability, and I have such an extreme need for stability that because of the instability growing up, that I want to create that healthy stability. So we started working on that, and having a daughter has just really solidified that, not only that need, but that motivation, the want, and it's brought up a lot of things in me really since her pregnancy. My wife's pregnancy, and it's really it's I think it's about seeing the negatives of that and thinking to yourself, how do I break the cycle genuinely? Because it's I've got to do something. How do I do it? And it's just figuring that out, and having a family for me has helped me start to do that. And because of that, it has healed me in many, many ways. And it just gets better every month. Everything that I'm able to accomplish within my family, I feel like heals a little bit of a piece of my past, and that's a very happy thing for me.
I love that. Everything you're able to accomplish with your family heals uh, a little piece of your past. You said that you guys have been married for about 8 years. You just celebrated your 8 year anniversary, and you decided to wait to have your daughter. What's your daughter's name?
Her name is Julia.
Julia. Decided to wait to have Julia, and because you wanted to establish a foundation and get to know each other. Were there things that you two did intentionally to get to know each other? Like, did you go to couples therapy? Were there homework assignments, or was it just about hanging around each other? What were some of the things that you had put into place to kind of figure out who each other is?
We early when we were approaching the idea of marriage, we actually went to some coupling, or some couple classes for navigating the idea of coupling up. And we learned a lot about our kind of different love languages, and what they look like, and the different needs that we have specifically, um, you know and how to best communicate with each other. And of course, it's a work in progress. Every day and every year, it's one direction or the other. And of course, when we were in our early and mid 20s, of course, it looked different back then as well. But I think that was a good start. And from there, each year we just tried to keep I think we just tried to keep an open mind. We tried to keep our eyes on our goals for our marriage, and our goals are to stay together. So because of that, we have to say, okay, we decided to be together. So that was important, and that was an intentional decision. So the next decision is to decide to and be intentional about staying together, and trying to cultivate that in a way that's beneficial to both parties. And so there were different things through the years. We would spend time together. I'm a big language person, so I was always trying to learn more about her, give her language to explain to me, give her language that I was explaining for about myself to her, and try to focus in on the qualities that made each other both good and maybe faulty, and how to work around that and work through that, and then also the things that make us great, and how to appreciate that and enjoy that. And I think it's a mindset of companionship, and it's a mindset of loyalty. And as long as you have that, and you're interested in being intentional about that, the methods will present themselves. It's just about your ability to follow through, your ability to pursue them, and your ability to hang on to your intentions. And that's kind of what we have been doing really for the last 8 years, and I hope to see that for as long as we have each other.
I love that companionship and loyalty. Being a music teacher and having the background that you've had throughout your life, um, have there been instances where maybe you've identified a kid who might be struggling in a similar way that you've struggled as a kid, and do you um, and how do you address that if that has been a situation?
Right. I have. I'm deeply an empath, because of my past experiences and, just my intentions for life. As I'm sure you hear me say throughout all this conversation, I do want to help people, and I want to help them help themselves. That's really what it's about. Because of that, I've been teaching music for 10 years, for about 10 years, and I give one-on-one lessons as sort of my main, dabble in that instruction. And I've given anywhere from 15 to 30 lessons a week for really the last 10 years, and so it's many people and many instances, and it's almost like small therapy sessions in many ways. You learn a lot about people, and because I'm always have that third eye kind of opened. I'm always listening and trying to pick up on things. And if the day is just for music, that's okay. And if the day is for other things, I'm there as well. And I've only picked up on that a couple of times in students, and I've never gotten an air or a evidence of abuse, because certainly I would bring that to the attention of my superiors or the city and whoever needed to be let in on that. So no, luckily I have not seen that, but I certainly have seen the depression. I've certainly seen the almost sometimes deep levels of sadness, and sometimes it was just related to being a teenager, and sometimes it was related to other things. And because I'm able to pick up on that sadness, and I'm so acquainted with despair, that I don't want people to feel alone, and I don't want them to feel looked over. And I felt that I'm so familiar with that feeling, that both in my songwriting project with the Canary Yellow and being a teacher, my goals are to help people not feel, you know, kind of sidestepped. I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel heard. And I can't fix everything. I can't even fix, you know, some things, but I can certainly offer them whatever it is that I've got, whether it's through my art or just through my my app to focus in on their needs, even just for a brief time, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be. And when I identify those things in others, I just try to find a way to get to them. Find a way to break through that barrier, not to prove to them that I can help them, but to prove to them that they are able to be helped. They are able to be reached. And that's honestly a big reason why I've been doing these podcast interviews, these mental health related conversations, because I know that people sometimes don't realize that they can be reached. And I've heard so many people say, you know, you couldn't understand. So it's not about you don't understand, or you aren't trying to understand, or you won't understand. It's that you couldn't. And I know what that feels like on such a deep level, that I want people to know that you can, that there are people out there that you can identify with, and also be reached by, and whether it's through music that I love for myself, whether it's through my music that I'm trying to present to others, whether it's through being a music teacher or being a podcaster like yourself. I think the ability to show people that they can be reached, and ultimately reach them or disarm them to be reached by somebody or something, it can save their life. And it's so important. And I just know that if I didn't have the things that I needed to make me feel that way, I don't know that I would be here today. And because of that, I've got to give back, and everybody has such a unique purpose and a unique, self-worth. And as long as you can find that, you can be that for so many people, or maybe even just one person. But it doesn't really matter how many, because if you're accomplishing that in somebody, you might prevent something terrible, whether it's substance abuse, suicide, self-harm, child abuse, perpetuating child abuse, domestic violence, as simple as not being empathetic towards somebody. All of those things can be prevented by being reached and being disarmed to be reached. And that's, you know, those are really all in my motivations for this. And I try to look for that in people whenever I can.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you feel like would be of benefit to the listeners? Anything about mental health or about the Canary Yellow Project?
I just I always like to make sure people truly know to just hang on. And I've gotten messages from people after doing interviews describing things that I struggle with, that how seen they felt and how less alone they felt because of it. And just to hear that come from somebody when those are your motivations, just remind me that it's important to keep going. And I just want to say to anybody that, if you feel like you have something to offer or you're not sure what that is yet, you know, search it out, cultivate it, and figure out how to offer it to people. And for me right now, it's the Canary Yellow and it's my family. And, if you're interested in finding my music project, you can find me at thecanaryellow.card, CARRD.co. I'm on Instagram at the Canary Yellow, Facebook. You can stream my music on Spotify, Apple Music, any of the streaming services. And, really just whether it's my music, somebody else's story, Leo's podcast, other people's podcasts, just, don't give up hope. And most importantly, keep pursuing yourself and keep pursuing others, because all we have in humanity really is each other and the things that we can do to make the world a better place. So just don't stop searching.
And then last question that I ask of all my guests, because I always imagine there's one person listening in who may be on the precipice of ending their life. Before you kill yourself, what would you say to them, Joshua?
I would hope that they could see my story and others like me who share themselves as proof that you do have something to offer, and just try not to lose sight of that. Don't let what you're feeling right now, what you're feeling today, make you feel like you don't have the power to create a better future for both yourself and others. And just reconsider.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. Remember, this podcast is not a substitute for you going to get help, for you calling the 1-800-SUICIDE or 1-800-273-TALK, or the other phone numbers that are listed in all the show notes that connect you not only with phone numbers, but there's talk, there's text, there are emails, there are international phone numbers linked in the show notes, as well as the information to find Joshua at the Canary Card online. And you can always go to thrivewithleo.com for one-on-one coaching with yours truly. Let's get to tomorrow together. Thank you so much, Joshua.
Thank you. I very much appreciate it.
And just a quick reminder, BetterHelp is not a crisis line and wants you to start living a happier life today. So go to BetterHelp, HELP /Leo, and enjoy your 10% off today. Today, you can start your journey to being happy, to achieving your goals, to feeling heard and connected. You can start communicating now. It's worldwide, and you can join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional now. Go to betterhelp.com /Leo to start your journey today.